Cuphead had set very high expectations for itself with its trailers that showed a beautifully drawn mixture of a bullet hell and a run and gun, and after release, it surpassed all of them. It's still insane to me that every single frame of every enemy in this game was hand-drawn, but it led to one of the most unique games I've ever experienced. This classic art style took me back to the times I was up watching a little Tom and Jerry before school. The other parts are just as amazing too. The difference between most games is computer-generated music and Cuphead's live orchestra performance is like night and day, and the gameplay itself is smooth. Smoother than this guy's bald head, some might say. This game was released in 2017, and 5 years later, it's still at the apex of its genre and arguably even at the apex of gaming as a whole. The limited yet diverse selection of weapons can be used in pairs and cycle through seamlessly, and when you die, the game has an interesting way of showing your progression. On one hand, it's nice because you know exactly how much more you need to do to finish the level, but on the other hand, being one step away from the finish line, especially on a hard boss, can be excruciating. This game was surprisingly easy on the first island, making it a nice subworld to ease players into the game. Maybe they should have been kinder later in the game too though, because less than 15% of PC players actually finished it. I, however, love the game's difficulty. By the standards of a run and gun game, it's very fair, and the feeling of finally beating a challenging boss is not something you can enjoy in many games. Cuphead is similar to Dark Souls in this way and this way alone. I remember game journalists used to refer to literally any hard game as a variant of Dark Souls, but game journalists also failed to get past this game's tutorial, so who really cares what they think? Another aspect that made me enjoy spending extended periods of time on individual bosses is the plethora of interesting little details that add more life to each enemy you face. My favorite ones are when the nurse birds turn into chefs and start seasoning the bird you just beat, and how the crowd gets excited when the wizard turns into a massive snowman. One weird detail that really drew my attention is how Mugman occasionally drinks out of himself before a fight starts, which seems to me like the Cup Boy equivalent of sucking himself off. So shout out to Mugman, I guess. Moving on, I'm not even gonna try to sugarcoat the fact that some parts of this game are just bullshit. In one of the final bosses in the base game, you have to hit a specific number on a dice to proceed, and one position before the finishing spot is a spot that makes you completely start over. That's just evil, honestly. But something else that really annoyed me is the entire Horse Knight fight. The knight can take 20 to 30 seconds between each attack, which is the only time you can punish him, so it just turns into an unnecessary waiting game. That's about as far as my complaints go. Some bosses are insanely hard, but there's always an easy mode if you're bitch made, so it's not an issue. The game's beautiful overworld was also very fun to explore. It's great at differentiating normal scenery and interactable locations, and the short storylines scattered throughout were the cherry on top. I'll be a monkey's uncle if I'm putting my moolah in the bank. What the fuck does that mean? After finishing the DLC, I can confirm that every positive thing I said about the game remains true. Every battle is just as visually pleasing, has just as fire music, and even has some unique new ideas like a fake knockout screen.
I win!
I won't discuss anything more than that minor spoiler, but there's a lot more cool stuff in here. Cuphead was innovative by every definition of the word, and the same can be said about this new DLC. There's so much amazing new content, and for a price of $8, there's no question that it's a great bang for your buck. The last thing I want to address is the story. No one plays this game for the story, and it plays a very minor role in the experience, but for what it's worth, it's decent. The premise of the base game is that Cuphead and Mugman are gambling addicts and lose their souls to the devil, and the premise of the DLC is that they become friends with this chef made of crystal meth in order to help Miss Chalice. It's not bad, but nothing special either. Cuphead is one of the most critically acclaimed video games ever, and it deserves it. Every aspect of the game has been honed to perfection through countless delays and a very important prioritization of the staff's mental health. It's genuinely heartwarming to see Studio MDHR's head say that happiness of the team is the #1 priority, and if it takes longer, it takes longer. Cuphead was originally supposed to come out in 2014, but it actually released in 2017. This DLC, instead of the originally planned 2019, came out just a few days ago. Studio MDHR isn't obligated to delay the game in order to support their team's mental health, but they did it anyway, which led to a game so good that it'll never be forgotten. It's awful that this isn't already the precedent in the gaming industry or just in the world in general, but I hope Cuphead's immense success can help change that. Thank you.